In a strange turn of events, Star Wars exists primarily on TV these days. In 2019, Disney released Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, concluding the ambitious sequel trilogy it had begun with Star Wars: The Force Awakens in 2015. Since then, the vast galaxy far, far away has been contained to the small screen with shows such as The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Andor. Among the most important architects of the Star Wars franchise in recent years has been director Jon Favreau. After helping launch Disney's other major franchise, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Iron Man and its first sequel, he later helped revitalize Star Wars with the creation of The Mandalorian. With the Pedro Pascal starring Disney Plus series, Favreau found a bona fide hit, and the show is now in its third season. The full-steam approach Disney has adopted when it comes to putting Star Wars on TV is likely the result of Favreau's success with Din Djarin and Grogu. Given his position and the role he plays in shaping the future of Star Wars, few are better situated to comment on what's next for the historic science fiction series. In a recent interview, Favreau explained some of the considerations he and Lucasfilm have as they journey past the sequel trilogy.
People who grew up with it, like anybody would care, because I know to younger people, that's what I figured out.
In a press junket interview with Danish outlet Movie TV as part of a promotional push for Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Jon Favreau revealed some insight into Lucasfilm's ongoing process of expanding the franchise's story beyond the sequel trilogy of films, which culminated with 2019's Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. According to Favreau, he and his collaborators view the sequel trilogy as a massive movie event, but it is a relatively small chapter in the overarching story of Star Wars. "It's a big thing on the screen," Favreau said, "and it's very eventful. But it is a relatively brief moment in history over the course of the thousands of years that Star Wars take place." While noting that plans for future Star Wars media are ongoing, Favreau made clear that there are some concrete points in the timeline around which things will be structured. What happens after the sequel trilogy is interesting too, Favreau said, "and I know that there is some discussion and exploration going on about what happens after it, so I think there are certain markers we have. When looking at the broader Star Wars timeline, there are precise moments that filmmakers and fans know well, but in between these events is, as Favreau puts it, a lot of murkiness." Because of this, Favreau compares approaching Star Wars to studying history. For 2 seasons, Disney's The Mandalorian has captured the hearts and minds of audiences around the world. Whether you're a die-hard Star Wars fan or new to the franchise, it's nearly impossible to resist the adorable green-eared bundle that is Grogu, aka Baby Yoda. Besides drowning in Grogu's doe eyes, viewers can't help but marvel over the puppetry and effects that went into bringing him and all the creatures of the series to life. Alongside one of the cutest beings ever conceived are some of the most badass men and women in the galaxy, all framed through the lens of gorgeous cinematography, brilliant writing, excellent casting, and cinematic music. The show is a beautiful love letter to the original Star Wars trilogy, loaded with moments viewers of all ages can appreciate. However, The Mandalorian also has plenty of mature moments and references that are likely to go over younger viewers' heads. Homages to classic westerns and samurai films, scenes inspired by Quentin Tarantino, incorporation of Star Wars fan humor, and the shock and awe of seeing Bill Burr in a Star Wars-related project are just a few of the things only adults notice in The Mandalorian. Although it takes place in a galaxy far, far away, the Star Wars franchise can be viewed as a study of spaghetti westerns and samurai movies. George Lucas has openly acknowledged the direct influence films like Akira Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress and Sergio Leone's The Man with No Name trilogy had on his space cowboy stories. Likewise, Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau has also cited the two genres and directors as major sources of inspiration for his show. He's even been quoted as saying Din Djarin is a deconstructed version of Clint Eastwood's iconic Leone character. You can almost hear Mando asking some villainous scum,
"Do I feel lucky?" "Well, do you, punk?"
Another major Mando inspiration is Kenji Mizumi's Lone Wolf and Cub, sometimes known as Shogun Assassin in the US. This classic manga follows a disgraced shogun's executioner forced onto the path of an assassin, who must take his young son with him. He pushes the little one around in a tricked-out baby cart.
You can see the spice scattered over the surface. Rich spice bed. By the color.
George Lucas pulled inspiration for A New Hope from Frank Herbert's 1965 science fiction novel Dune. Herbert once claimed he was trying very hard not to sue over infringement. When examining their similarities, one can see why Herbert felt this way. The resemblances between his novel and Lucas' first film are startling. Both star coming-of-age male heroes hailing from inhospitable desert planets on the far fringes of space, where their families eke out meager lives as water harvesters. They both also feature large vehicles known as sand crawlers, an illicit drug called spice, giant slug-like creatures, and sand-dwelling monsters, a force that when mastered allows them to control others, and a brother who shares a powerful spiritual and psychic connection with his princess sister, who both happen to be descended from the primary antagonist. The similarities go on, and this issue has remained a point of contention for Lucas. Although The Mandalorian pulls heavily from the somber tones of spaghetti westerns and Chanbara films, it has plenty of laugh-out-loud moments too, particularly ones poking fun at the Star Wars franchise itself. Although loaded with kid-friendly laughs, these sarcastic memes are all too familiar to mature fans, who have been dismantling all the irregularities and quirks of their beloved franchise for years. One of the more memorable of these tongue-in-cheek scenes occurs in Chapter 12, The Siege, while Mando, Greef Karga, Cara Dune, and the unnamed Mithril are infiltrating an old Imperial base on Navarro. The crew encourages the Mithril to walk out on a precarious precipice over lava, so as to access some machinery controls, to which he tremulously replies, "There's no guardrail on this." The stark lack of safety railings on Empire ships is something Star Wars fans have been joking about since the first film was released in 1977, and was most notably mocked in the Star Wars parody episode of Family Guy, Blue Harvest. For a guy who never shows his face, Din Djarin is a huge chick magnet. Younger viewers may not notice, but mature audiences will pick up on the fact that, excluding Cara Dune, the few non-Mandalorian females he's crossed paths with have either been instantly attracted to him or had some sort of romantic history with him. What can we say? Some women love a man in uniform, while others like Bad Boys, and Mando fits both those types. In Chapter 4, The Sanctuary, Din crosses paths with a young widow named Omera, with whom he could have lived a tranquil life sipping spotchka, if not for that blasted Mandalorian creed. Bad boy Mando also seems to have broken the heart of Tian, a knife-throwing Twi'lek he works with in Chapter 6, The Prisoner. She threatens to use her blades against him for whatever shenanigans he pulled on her in the past. For all her wrath, Chiyan refuses to disclose if Din truly wears his helmet all the time. As she teases, a lady never tells.
To the Empire.
A truly weird thing adults notice in The Mandalorian is the sheer irony of seeing comedian Bill Burr cast in a Star Wars-related role. Longtime fans of his podcast know that the snarky Bostonian has long riffed on the franchise, as he never forged a personal connection with the original trilogy when it was released in his youth. Burr stirred up controversy within the Star Wars universe for remarks he made in 2015, declaring that when he did finally watch the original trilogy in his mid-20s, it felt like a cheesy self-help book put in outer space with, like, Muppets. To be fair, Old Billy Redface makes fun of everyone and everything equally, even his beloved sports teams. Still, it may seem curious that Jon Favreau would cast a devout Star Wars hater in The Mandalorian. But in an ironic twist of fate, Burr claims Favreau chose him precisely for this reason, stating he thought it would be funny. And it most certainly is, Mr. Favreau. Little girls everywhere have found a true hero in Gina Carano's tough-as-nails Cara Dune, but adult fans recognize her for more than just her killer role on The Mandalorian. Carano's background makes her the ideal candidate for playing Cara Dune, the most recent addition to the Star Wars collection of fierce brunette heroines. Before she started acting, Carano was a Muay Thai fighter who launched her career as one of the first mainstream female mixed martial artists, competing back when the sport started blowing up in the 2000s. After earning an MMA record of 7 wins, 1 loss, and 0 draws, Carano transitioned into acting in 2008 with the role of Natasha Volkova in EA's acclaimed real-time strategy video game Command & Conquer: Red Alert 3. Her ability to perform her own stunts and make the action look realistic on-screen has kept her busy with various action roles since, most notably as Mallory Kane in Haywire, Riley in Fast and Furious 6, and Angel in Deadpool.
Woo! Superhero landing! Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Totally impractical. They all do it.
Baby Grogu may be one of the greatest things to come out of the Star Wars franchise. His adorable visage helped many fans get through the colossal challenges of 2020. You just can't help but take refuge in his calming presence and big dark eyes. While innocent young minds go no further than admiring Grogu's cool powers and cuteness factor, adult minds can't help but wonder where Grogu came from. If he's not a clone, as has been implied in the show thus far, then he either was spontaneously created like Anakin Skywalker, or he was made the old-fashioned way, and you can bet that way wasn't a dactyl stork dropping him off on the Jedi Temple's doorstep. So far, the only other creatures encountered like Grogu in Star Wars have been Yoda and Yaddle. Could Grogu's existence explain the latter's sudden disappearance from the Jedi High Council? That all remains fan theory for now, but regardless of who sired the little womp rat formerly known as Baby Yoda, the twisted adult mind can't help but wonder how such creatures would accomplish procreation.